Hello everybody, it's Terry Ryder from Hotspotting. It's Tuesday evening, so this must be, and it is, Hotspot of the Week. And today we're going to address one of the recovering markets in the city of Perth, which is, as I've often referred to it, as the city of opportunity, because prices are down after several years of downturn. But right now, the market's entering a recovery phase and there is opportunity to buy well before the market starts to heat up as the recovery gathers pace. I'm also continuing to address the general theme of many of my short broadcasts over the last week or so and in coming weeks along the topic of, are prices rising, and if so, where? So in terms of Perth's state in the and place in the property clock, where is it in the cycle? We certainly believe it's past the bottom and is moving into the recovery phase. Some sources of price data still have the generalised data, that is, still have Perth prices down in annual terms, whereas others are starting to suggest that prices are starting to rise again, including recent figures published in the last week by the Real Estate Institute of Western Australia. Some other price sources also have the generalised figure for the Perth metropolitan area starting to move into the positive again, although others still have negative. What we do know to be true is the top end of the Perth market is certainly rising. In the last 12 months, many of the million-dollar suburbs have recorded double-digit growth in their median prices. So today in Hotspot of the Week, I want to look at the area I call the Forrestfield Precinct, or the local government area of Kalamunda. One of the reasons for that is that we are actually starting to see some of those suburbs showing a return to solid price growth. But primarily this area is of interest to us because of the importance of infrastructure. We know that major spending on infrastructure is a major driver of residential property markets. It generates economic activity, lots of jobs, improves the amenity of the areas that benefit from the infrastructure, particularly transport infrastructure. And when it comes to Perth, this particular area is infrastructure central. There are 3 or 4 really big projects which combined are going to have a massive impact on that part of Perth. This precinct is fairly close to the Perth Airport precinct, and that's an important place to be because, as in all our major cities, the airport precinct, including the commercial and industrial precincts around the airport, are massive jobs nodes, major generators of economic activity. And this is being added to, in this particular part of Perth, through a series of projects, Gateway WA, the North Link Road project, the Forrestfield Airport Link rail line. We're talking about projects totaling $5 or $6 billion, and the economic impact, the jobs impact, and ultimately the impact on residential property will be considerable. So this is a precinct that's worth taking notice of as the Perth market moves into this recovery phase. So we're talking about the local government area of Kalamunda, sort of centred on the suburb of Forrestfield. It's about 20 to 25 kilometres east of the Perth CBD, fairly close to the airport. It's a mixture of rural and residential land. You can broadly divide this local government area into 3 segments. The foothills plains, that includes suburbs like Forrestfield and High Wycombe and Wattle Grove. Then you've got the escarpment, places like Kalamunda, Gooseberry Hill, and then you've got the eastern rural districts of this local government area, places like Bickley, Carmel, Pickering Brook, Hackett's Gully, and Canning Mills. Okay, so what we say in our location report on the Kalamunda precinct is that the suburbs of Kewdale and Forrestfield, near the Perth Airport, are the sites of the largest infrastructure project ever undertaken by Main Roads WA. It is at this location where road, rail, and air services connect and will be transformed into an important transport hub where the Gateway WA Perth Airport and Freight Access Project are completed. So we have in this area the Perth Freight Terminal, 68-hectare commercial industrial complex where some of the big freighting names Australian business are located, including Linfox, Toll, Pacific National and K&S Freighters. Growth projections by Pacific National suggest that the Perth Freight Terminal is destined to become one of the largest terminals in Australia in the next 15 years. So it's all about infrastructure, and it's about jobs nodes. And what we know to be true from the research and our experience over many years of researching residential markets around Australia is that people want to live close to where they work. So where there are major jobs nodes, residential markets nearby are going to thrive in the long term. And that's certainly, we think, the case for this precinct, the Kalamunda local government area, including suburbs like Forrestfield. It's not just about the airport and the commercial industrial precincts. There are many elements to this local government area, as I mentioned earlier. It does have natural areas, rural areas, the numerous national or nature parks within the Shire. There are wineries, there's a food and wine trail through the Bickley Valley. There are golf courses, a water park, sports centre, historical sites, all sorts of different attractions. So many elements to this place. There are lifestyle elements as well as the proximity to the infrastructure and the jobs nodes. So as I mentioned, there's the foothills areas which include Forrestfield, and then you've got the escarpment areas a little bit higher up, including suburbs like Kalamunda itself, Gooseberry Hill. It's very much an area that's mortgage belt territory. 34% own their homes and another 46% have mortgages. So that's 80% either owning the homes outright or owning the homes with a mortgage. The property market is pretty active. Some popular suburbs there, which each have recorded over 100 house sales in the last 12 months. Affordability is an attraction. The most popular suburbs, most of them have median house prices in the 400,000s. Some of them are starting to show a return to price growth. Forrestfield in annual terms is up 6%. Kalamunda and Lismurdy are up 5% each. So in terms of where the Perth market is at, generally speaking, those are pretty solid growth rates, and not many suburbs around Perth at the moment as yet have shown that level of returning to price growth after several years of downturn. Vacancy rates aren't too bad. Perth has had, over the last few years, high vacancies. That's been part of the problem, which is a consequence of the end of the resources investment boom and people who previously had jobs in the resources sector leaving Perth and going elsewhere. But the vacancy rates have come down, and in this area, some of them are at comfortable levels. One postcode, the one that includes Gooseberry Hill and Kalamunda, is 2%, which is a pretty good vacancy rate. And there's a couple of other postcodes that are just around the 3% mark, which is just close to the comfort zone. The worst of them has a vacancy rate of a bit over 4%. So starting to look a lot more comfortable. Rental yields are pretty good too. Several suburbs have median rental yields between 4 and 4.5%. But I guess the big attraction, the reason why we're mostly interested in this area is because of the big infrastructure and what that's going to do to the local economy, the jobs it's going to create, and the attraction that'll create for people who want to live in affordable areas close to where they work, which points us towards the Kalamunda local government area. So we've got the $1 billion Gateway WA project, the $1.1 billion North Link WA project, and then we've got the $2 billion train link, which is known as the Forrestfield Airport link, which links that part of Perth right through to the CBD of Perth. So add them all up, and we've got $4 or $5 billion worth of investment happening, creating jobs, economic activity, and ultimately improving the amenity of suburbs in the general vicinity. So that's the Kalamunda local government area, which we also sometimes refer to as the Forrestfield Precinct, an area of Perth that is starting to show a return to price growth, including some suburbs that have grown 5 or 6% in the last 12 months, helped along in the near future, we think, by the big infrastructure spend that's happening in and around that area, based on this transport hub concept around the Perth airport, which is a massive jobs node, and it's about to become even bigger. So that's it for now. That's Hotspot of the Week. One of the most interesting parts of the Perth market, which, as I've mentioned many times, is the city of opportunity, as we said, because it's moving into a phase where it's recovering. The economy is improving, jobs are being created, vacancies are coming down. The top end of the market has moved quite strongly in terms of price growth, and we're expecting the rest of the market to follow as we move into 2019. That's it for now. Terry Ryder from hotspotting.com.au signing off. We'll speak to you again soon.